During the 2014 offseason, things started to change. The Tigers got really desperate. They traded away Prince Fielder to get Ian Kinsler back. Jim Leyland retired, so they quickly signed Brad Ausmus to be the new manager. They traded Doug Fister and a series of other trades to acquire Alex Gonzalez, Miggy's former teammate, at shortstop, with Peralta hitting free agency and Iglesias out for the year. The Tigers also signed Rajai Davis to help out the outfield, but mostly they focused on the bullpen. They signed Joe Nathan and Jabba Chamberlain, and even signed Joel Hanrahan and Jim Johnson throughout the year, just throwing anything at the wall and see what stuck. They moved Cabrera back to first base with Fielder no longer there, but to show how committed they were, they signed him to another 8-year extension, this one worth $248 million. Combined with what was left on its previous deal, that was worth $292 million total, the largest contract in baseball history at the time.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching-gery. Money, oh money, how I love thee.
And the big moves didn't stop there. As the deadline approached, the Tigers traded for Joakim Soria to help out the bullpen. And they had one of the most memorable deadline day trades ever. On July 31st, 5 games up on Kansas City, the Tigers executed a 3-team trade with the Mariners and the Rays. GM David Dombrowski came into the dugout mid-game and made Brad Ausmus take Austin Jackson out of center field to a standing ovation.
Austin Jackson being taken out of the game and getting a standing ovation from Tigers fans.
Fans didn't know it then, but the Tigers had just traded Jackson, Drew Smiley, and Willie Adames for David Price. The Tigers' starting rotation now had 3 Cy Youngs in it, and David Price pitched into the 8th and struck out 8 to blank the Twins for the Tigers on the final day of the season to clinch their 4th straight division title. Cabrera that year hit a 2-run homer on April 4th to reach 2,000 hits. He was the 7th youngest player ever to 2,000. He made his 9th All-Star game where he hit his first All-Star game homer off of Adam Wainwright. And he still had good numbers, but they're not what they had been. His home run power significantly dropped, but he led the AL in doubles with 52. The Tigers went to Baltimore for the ALDS. In Game 1, the O's jumped out to a quick 2-0 lead on a Nelson Cruz homer. The Martinezes went back-to-back to tie the game in the 2nd, but the O's got one right back in the bottom half from Markakis, and J.J. Hardy also knocked one over the fence in the 7th. In the 8th, Cabrera stepped up and did what he does best, take the ball the other way to make it a 1-run game. However, in the bottom half, Scherzer had to come out, and the big acquisitions, Joakim Soria and Jabba Chamberlain, came in, and they got rocked. 8 runs came around to score for the Orioles in the frame, and the Tigers lost 12-3. In Game 2, the Orioles scored first again on a Markakis 2-run homer in the 3rd. In the next half inning, Torrey Hunter started things off with a single, followed by a Cabrera double and a Victor Martinez RBI single. Then JD stepped up to the plate and launched a 3-run homer, but the scoring wasn't done yet as Nick Castellanos joined in on the home run fun, making it a 5-2 Tigers lead. Baltimore got one back in the bottom half, but the Tigers matched it in the 8th. Started with Torrey getting on base again, followed by a Cabrera single and a V-Mart RBI double. Verlander and Sanchez combined for the first 7 innings of the game, but Chamberlain and Soria came in again and gave up 4 runs this time to fall behind and ultimately lose. It was the first time the Tigers had lost the first 2 games of a playoff series since the World Series in 2012. Game 3 was a pitcher's duel. David Price went 8 innings, only giving up 2 runs. Joe Nathan pitched a scoreless frame, but the Tigers could only muster 1 run. Cabrera and the rest of the top 3 in the order went a combined 0 for 11. The Tigers only had 4 hits as a whole and got swept in the series. Cabrera didn't know it, but he and the team had played their last playoff game. After the season, Cabrera had surgery to remove a bone spur in his ankle. It'd been bothering him for months, but doctors discovered that there was a stress fracture in his foot that he'd been playing through all that time. This likely sapped his power and led to his decrease in home run numbers. The Tigers still wanted to win, but were beyond desperate. They were in do-or-die mode. They extended Victor Martinez for 4 more years and tried to sign Max Scherzer, but he ultimately went for the same AAV and 2 more years tacked onto the deal from the Nats. The Tigers signed Tom Gorzolani to help out the bullpen, traded for Anthony Gose to help out in the outfield, and Shane Green to help out in the starting rotation. And the Tigers traded a guy they saw as a stopgap at the time with Jose Iglesias returning, Eugenio Suarez, for Alfredo Simon, and with 1 extra starter, they decided to trade longtime Tiger Rick Porcello for Yoenis Cespedes and reliever Alex Wilson. And Cabrera started out great that year. On May 16th, he hit his 400th home run and later drove in his 1,426th RBI. Both of those numbers passed Andres Galarraga as number 1 in Venezuelan Major League history. Cabrera was elected to another All-Star game, but he couldn't play in this one. On July 4th, he was placed on the DL with a grade 3 calf strain, and he tore muscle fibers in the calf. It was his first time on the DL, and this mirrored the team. Verlander, Victor Martinez, Jose Iglesias, Alex Avila, Anibal Sanchez, Bruce Rondon, Daniel Norris, Joe Nathan, and Shane Green were all placed on the disabled list, missing extended periods of time. GM David Dombrowski saw the writing on the wall, and at the deadline, the Tigers were 2 games under 500 and an 11.5 out of first place in the division. The Tigers had been trying to win since 2007 and had failed. He began to sell. He traded David Price, Joakim Soria, and Cespedes, all for prospects. Owner Mike Ilitch didn't even let him stay for the rest of the year. He fired him in August because he wanted this Tigers team to win now. Cabrera came back to 3 major pieces missing and the team being 14 games out of first. However, not all the pieces were gone. Similar to 2013, Cabrera had slowed production from this injury. Beforehand, he was on pace for 32 homers and 114 RBIs while hitting .350. And you can see after his numbers are significantly lower, but it was still very good. It just wasn't to his full potential. However, he won the batting title for the 4th time in 5 years despite playing 119 games, his lowest total since he was a rookie. He also led the AL in on-base percentage and won another Silver Slugger. This was his 2nd Silver Slugger at first base, and he became the 2nd player ever to win multiple Silver Sluggers at different infield spots. After a last place finish, new GM Al Avila was told to win now, so he made some win now moves. If you haven't checked out my video on this, I recommend you check it out after this. Bad decision after bad decision, failure after failure, an absolute disaster piece. He extended JD Martinez, signed the biggest pitcher and hitter on the market, Jordan Zimmerman and Justin Upton. He also signed Jared Saltalamacchia for some offensive help at the catcher position and traded for K-Rod, Justin Wilson, and Cameron Maybin. This was still a good team, however, despite being 4 games out of first at the deadline, he did not make a move to improve the team. But Cabrera continued his greatness. On June 28th, he had a home run off the Marlins to complete his collection of a home run off of every single Major League team. He recorded his 1,500th RBI on July 22nd, and he was the fastest player ever to reach 400 homers and 1,500 RBIs. He was selected to his 11th All-Star game in 13 full seasons and won his 7th Silver Slugger. And the season came right down to the last series in Atlanta. The Tigers were just a game and a half back of the wild card and needed to win 2 of 3, if not sweep the 66-92 Atlanta team. In Game 1, Cabrera homered in the 1st and 3rd innings as the Tigers secured win number 1. Now Detroit was just a half game back of Toronto for the wild card. In Game 2, the Tigers struck first in the 3rd. However, Atlanta took the lead in the 4th and never looked back. Shane Green ultimately gave up 2 runs that separated the teams in the 7th. Detroit was now 1.5 games back and needed to win and a loss from either Toronto or Baltimore to force a makeup for Game 162. In Game 3, with Verlander on the mound, he gave up 2 singles and a Freddie Freeman sac fly and then made a great pitch to get the double play. That would be the only run he allowed through 7 innings, and Bruce Rondon came in relief and didn't give up a run either. But the Tigers only mustered 5 hits, 2 of which came from Cabrera, and couldn't score even 1 run with their season on the line. Series over. Season over. This was the end of Cabrera's peak, as he had a significant drop-off after this point. But his peak was insane. An average season in his prime from 2005 to 2016 looked like this. an average season. From 2010 to 2013, he hit over 30 homers each year and struck out less than 100 times each season. In 14 years, he already had a Hall of Fame resume. 446 homers, over 2,500 hits, over 1,500 RBIs, lifetime batting average well above 300, 11 All-Star games, 2 MVPs, 7 Silver Sluggers, a Triple Crown, and a World Series victory. To dive into Cabrera's peak a little bit more, we gotta talk about Jaws. No, not that Jaws, it's a little more nerdy than that. The JAF WAR score system. This is an average of both career WAR and a player's 7 best individual seasons WAR. They don't necessarily have to be in a row. This helps compare players to other Hall of Famers. For example, Miggy's Jaws score came out to 56.0. Since 1953, only 4 first basemen have a better Jaws: Albert Pujols, Jeff Bagwell, Frank Thomas, and Jim Thome. The only first basemen with more All-Star games are Harmon Killebrew and Buck Leonard. And remember the 08 and 09 seasons? If Cabrera had gone to the Midsummer Classic both of those years, he would be all alone in first. He finished top 10 in the MVP voting 9 separate times, second only to Pujols, and he finished 7 times in the top 5, third behind Pujols and Lou Gehrig. Only Pujols and Jimmy Fox had more MVPs, and he would have tied those two for first if he had won that 2010 MVP. He could have retired right there, but he didn't. Maybe he would have if he knew what was coming next. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. 2017 was the worst year of Cabrera's life. And it all started with trivial back stiffness in the World Baseball Classic before the season even began. He continued to play for it, but it quickly got moved to the back burner as it was revealed to the world that his wife filed for divorce. Even though she eventually changed her mind and the two are still married to this day, it led to a lot of curiosity from the public as to what was going on in his personal life. He continued to play through the back stiffness until April 22nd when he strained his groin and was placed on the DL. He came back in early May, but he really wasn't playing well. At the All-Star break, he had just 5 homers and 27 RBIs. Remember in 13 when he had 30 homers and 95 RBIs? That All-Star break, Cabrera broke the silence on the turmoil of his home country, Venezuela. He made a video on Instagram where he told the world that he lives in constant fear that his family is going to be hurt unless he paid ransomers. In Spanish, he said, "I don't know whether it's a policeman or a bad guy. All I know is if I don't pay, these people disappear." He pled for his family's safety and elections in the country. Clearly, baseball wasn't at the forefront of his mind, but at the deadline, the Tigers were 47 and 57 in 4th place and 10 games back of the division lead. After a decade of trying to win with no World Series title, Avila traded away Justin Verlander, Justin Upton, JD Martinez, and Alex Avila at the deadline. The team continued to plummet, and it couldn't have been fun to play for. But in August, the biggest bombshell of the year hit. On the 7th, a woman named Belkis Rodriguez sued Cabrera for child support for their 2 kids. This revealed to the world that Rodriguez was a mistress, which explains the divorce filing earlier that year. While it was clear she was trying to get after Cabrera's money by asking for $100,000 a month, Disney cruises, and $1 million homes, this definitely damaged Cabrera's reputation and most likely his home life. Clearly frustrated and dealing with a lot, his temper boiled over on the field on August 24th. In the 4th inning, the Yankees' Gary Sanchez hit a home run off of Michael Fulmer to take a 2-1 lead. In the 5th, Gary's next at-bat was one pitch that came way inside and hit him. In the 6th, Cabrera got a pitch so far inside it went behind him. He was clearly angry and thought they were throwing at him. He begins a conversation with catcher Austin Romine, who said something Miggy clearly didn't like, as it led to a shove and a couple of swings by Cabrera before being taken down, and Romine got in a couple of swings before the bench is fully cleared and Cabrera ended up on the bottom of the pile. And then Gary Sanchez came over and sucker punched Cabrera in the head area just to make things worse. There at the bottom of the pile, Cabrera had hit rock bottom. He was suspended 6 games and Gary was only suspended 4. And at this point, you probably don't even remember the whole back stiffness issue, but Cabrera sure did. In September, it flared up bad, causing him to miss half the month. Let's do a fun quiz. In the 16 games Cabrera did play in September, how many wins do you think the Tigers had? That's right, it's 1. On the 24th of the month, Cabrera was diagnosed with 2 herniated discs in his back. That explains all the back pain. His season was cut short and it was the worst of his career at that point. It was the first full season he had with less than 25 homers and 103 RBIs. It was the lowest batting average of his entire career at 249, and it was his first OPS plus below league average. Things got worse in 2018 when on June 12th, Cabrera swung at a pitch and immediately felt pain in his left arm. He had to be taken out of the game mid at bat, and as it turned out, he ruptured his bicep tendon, needing surgery, and missed the rest of the season. He was playing really well at that point, and even though he was on pace for a low home run total, 94 RBIs and 47 double pace is much more Miguel-like. However, in 2019, he developed knee issues and had to transition to full-time DH. He still hit for a good average, but his power was severely limited with just 12 homers and 21 doubles. He played well in the shortened 2020 season, giving hope for a strong finish to his career, but no such luck. From 2021 to 23, Cabrera's average was all the way down to 256 and his slugging percentage at 354, hitting just 24 home runs over those 3 seasons. Despite the injuries, a bad Tigers team, and poor consistency on the field, Cabrera still had flashes of greatness to remind us why he was so special. In 2021, opening day, Cabrera launched an opposite field home run through the snow for an epic snopening day home run, gave us one of the coldest pictures of all time. This hit also made him the second Tiger ever with 350 homers and 2,000 hits with the team. On May 12th, Cabrera got his second RBI single of the night to pass Omar Vizquel with 2,878 hits, with the most ever by a Venezuelan. Cabrera now led all Venezuelans in hits, homers, and RBIs. On August 11th, Cabrera hit home run number 499 as the Tigers came home for a 6-game homestand. And this was one of the craziest parts of his entire career, both from a fan perspective and it had to be from his perspective as well. The world stopped whenever he came up to bat. Everyone stood, pulled out their phones and recorded, and went silent. Comerica Park sold out non-opening day games for the first time since 2017. However, this strange environment wasn't great for Cabrera, and he did not hit the home run at home. The Tigers went to Toronto, and in the 3rd game of the series, he came up to bat in the 6th with his team down 1 and made history.
Fly ball, right center, deep, got a chance! 500! Miguel Cabrera has done it! And this crowd in Toronto on their feet!
He was the 28th player ever to hit 500 home runs and the first to do so as a Tiger. What makes it more impressive was the home stadiums he had. While he was at Joe Robbie Stadium with the Marlins, it yielded the 24th most home runs in the league, and while he played at Comerica Park, it yielded the 18th most home runs in the league, both firmly in the bottom half. Cabrera continued to amaze that season, getting a hit on September 7th to pass Ichiro for the most interleague hits ever. He also got 2 more hits that night. He went 4 for 4 the next night, and then started 2 for 2 the night after that. That was 9 consecutive plate appearances with a hit, the longest streak by anyone 38 years or older since Ty Cobb in 1925. On September 25th, he had 3 hits and 4 RBIs. It was the 81st time in his career he had a game where he collected 3 hits and 3 RBIs in one game. Only Gehrig, Al Simmons, and Babe Ruth had more such games. In 2022, Cabrera was approaching another milestone. On April 20th, Cabrera went 3 for 4 against the Yankees to raise his career hit total to 2,999. The next game spurred controversy. Cabrera started 0 for 3, but the Tigers held a 1-run lead to start the bottom of the 8th. Cabrera came up with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 2 outs. He had a chance to deliver the kill shot for number 3,000, but Yankees manager Aaron Boone decided to intentionally walk Cabrera. It was his first intentional walk since September 10th of 2020. 588 days ago, and he only had 2 more for the rest of his career. Boos rained down as Austin Meadows delivered about the only Tigers highlight he had, with a 2-run double to secure a 3-0 win. The next game was scheduled for April 22nd versus the Rockies, but Detroit had other plans as rain forced the game to be postponed. Tension was growing more and more as fans had to wait on history. In the bottom of the 1st, Miggy came to the dish with a runner at first. With the first baseman holding the runner on, he saw a big hole on the right side.
1-1 ground ball. Base hit into right! 3,000 for Miguel Cabrera! From a skinny 15-year-old discovered on the dusty fields of Molokai to an icon in Motown.
The first person over to greet him, his former teammate Jose Iglesias. The game stopped as Cabrera got to be congratulated by his teammates, his family, and received Miggy chants from the fans. With that hit, he joined an elite club of only 7 players ever to hit 500 homers and 3,000 hits. However, on May 7th, the club got even more exclusive. He drove in two with his 600th career double. Only 2 other players ever had 500 homers, 3,000 hits, and 600 doubles: Hank Aaron and Albert Pujols. Only Cabrera and Aaron did it with a batting average above 300, and Cabrera was the only one to get a triple crown. Later that year, Cabrera was named to his 12th and final All-Star game through Rob Manfred's honorary selection. It was his first time since 2016. When his career was all said and done, it became clear he had one of the most impressive Hall of Fame resumes ever. He was top 25 in homers, hits, RBIs, and doubles, a career average over 300, 2-time MVP, Triple Crown, and World Series champ. And when you look at his first base ranks, he's 3rd all-time in doubles, 4th in hits, 6th in RBIs, and 10th in home runs. In the post-Bonds era, there's only 2 right-handed hitters who have completed their careers with the ability to say they are the best hitter since Bonds that ended up being clean: Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. Side by side, with a quick glance, it's clear Pujols had a better career. However, a lot of the WAR difference is due to defense. Cabrera had over -20 defensive WAR. If we just focus on offense, it's much closer. Still advantage Pujols, but Pujols played 283 more games and had over 1,200 more plate appearances. Let's say Cabrera repeated his final 1,245 plate appearances for a second time to match Pujols. Now all of a sudden Cabrera's leading in hits, and still a big gap when it comes to home runs. However, you gotta remember the ballparks Cabrera played in. That also leads to RBIs as well, which makes this number significantly closer, and they're pretty close in doubles at the end of the day. And those were just Miggy's last 1,200 plate appearances, some of the least productive of his career. If he had an entire 2015 and 2018 season, who knows how close this could have gotten. While Pujols did have the better career, injuries in ballparks are the main reason this isn't closer. But Cabrera had one thing no one else did. If you've watched for this long and you know Miggy, you know I've been holding out on his best quality. Not MVPs, not Triple Crowns, not a World Series, or even the Hall of Fame. He made baseball fun. He had fun with teammates, he had fun with the opposition, he had fun with the fans, and he had fun just by playing the game by himself. I've never experienced another player who made me belly laugh the way Cabrera did just by watching him play baseball. Like, the joy this man had is what I strive for in my life. There's several compilations you should watch after this video on YouTube, but I'll cover my favorite one of these moments now. On June 23rd, 2015, the Tigers were playing in Cleveland when a foul ball was hit to this fan named Dom. I'll let him explain.
I just tell Miggy, I got your back, because it was bored. They looked bored out there. He said, hold on, you just wait there. At first I thought he was just telling me back away, and then I see him bringing down this bat. I'm like, oh my gosh.
An amazing testament to why fans love Miggy. They don't have to be from Detroit for him to be their favorite player. By the way, Dom looks like this now, and that makes me feel like this. Cabrera still had some fun moments in his final season that solidified him as not only great, but also a joy to watch. In 2023, he passed Ichiro, Dave Winfield, A-Rod, Tony Gwynn, Robin Yount, and George Brett before settling between Adrian Beltre and Cal Ripken Jr. as 17th all-time in hits throughout the season. Miggy also had a first in year 21. On April 15th, he had a scheduled day off, and it seemed like he had no shot to play when the Tigers fell behind 6-1 in the 3rd inning versus the Giants. But the Tigers clawed back, scoring 2 in the 5th and 3 in the 8th to tie the game up. After no one scored in the first frame of extras, the lefty Taylor Rogers was brought in to start the inning against Akil Baddoo. Miggy pinch hit for the better matchup. After a wild pitch advanced the Manfred runner to third, Miggy came through.
Swinging a ground ball up the middle, into center field, base hit, Tigers win!
It was his first ever pinch hit walk-off, and it came at the age of 40. Then came the final day of the season, Cabrera's last day playing Major League Baseball. Cabrera started the game back at DH and in the 3-hole in the lineup where he'd spent most of his career. While he didn't record a hit, his 4th time up he watched 4 straight wide ones to get on base in the final plate appearance of his career. In the top of the 8th, Cabrera took over for Spencer Torkelson at first base. The last time Cabrera played in the field was October 2nd of 2021, 1 day short of exactly 2 years ago. Because of this, Cabrera actually had to borrow Torkelson's glove. As he took the field, he was given the rookie treatment as he was left out there alone to soak up the applause. Stephen Kwan led off the top of the inning and put the second pitch in play.
To Cabrera. How cool is that?
Baseball gods.
Manager AJ Hinch came in to take Cabrera out of the game one last time. Except he had help. Cabrera's 3 kids surprised him. At this moment, you see him notice it and get choked up. He got his final curtain call as tears began to well up. An amazing end to an amazing career. Cabrera was a player who achieved more than almost anyone in baseball. He had his demons and fair share of rough times near the end, but he continued to make fans and players smile every single day. He's more than just one of the best hitters ever. He's the most fun player in baseball.
Thank you very much, and see you later. I'm out.